Hi guys. I wanted to come and do another video. This is not about hair or purses or anything like that. Like most of my videos are, pretty much all of my videos are. This is actually about a book that I just read. I actually purchased this book right before Christmas, and it's called Peace from Broken Pieces. Is by Iyanla Vanzant. And those of you familiar with Miss Vanzant, she was featured on the Oprah show back in like the mid to late 90s, and she did like segments on relationships, and not just relationships with your spouse, with your children, with people in general, just relationships throughout life experiences. So I remember watching her back then, even though I was a lot younger, and like probably like high school, early college years. Well, she actually did a 2-part show with Oprah, kind of talking about their relationship, and during the time the book had just come out, I think around the time the Oprah show ended, and I think this was kind of like mid 2011. So she kind of talked about the book a little bit, and I kind of thought about it. It was an interesting segment, and blah blah blah. So shortly thereafter, since Oprah has acquired the OWN network, she has done the Iyanla Vanzant Fix My Life series, and in a lot of ways still kind of mentioned the book. Well, she also did Oprah has the Super Soul Sunday, when she has inspirational speakers come on. T.D. Jakes has been a part of that, Joel Osteen, and herself. She is a very, very smart woman, a very spiritual woman. And I happened to be watching a clip of the Super Soul Sunday. I actually missed it, but I ended up seeing a clip of it on YouTube. And I sometimes watch that clip over and over. And basically a lot through what I've been going through these past few months. As a lot of you guys know already, I'm going through a divorce. And she said something in the clip, and it just like, it's a lot of times in life, usually when someone tells you something when you're going through something, it takes your breath away. But it was just weird how this happened, and it wasn't like I was having a one-on-one conversation with this person. She was talking about life lessons and saying how in life, when we go through a period of turmoil or things become to be very turbulent, we all need to learn how to just take a pause before reacting, before making a final decision, or even deciding where you're going to go to in life next. Because when you go through that turbulent time in your life, it's like shaking up something. Like if say you had a bowl and everything has settled to the bottom in that bowl, and once you start to shake it, all of the parts of matter and different things kind of float to the top, and they swirl around in the bowl. And she was like, when you get shaked up in life, the thing that was within you that affects a lot of the things you go through in life and how you handle them, and being on sometimes, I hear women say, and I'm not just saying this is a female thing, it could very well be just a person thing, people thing, but I do talk to a lot more women, of course, than I do men, and they'll say, how did I end up back at this? I went through such and such with such and such, and now with such and such, and I'm back here. And that's kind of what she said, and when she said that, it moved something in me. So I was like, I had kept thinking about this book and thinking about this book, and so finally, right before Christmas, I bought the book, and I started to read the book. And the book frightened me. It literally scared me. It's to where I put the book down and I didn't read it again for weeks. And I recently picked it back up, and I actually finished the book. And it is a phenomenal book. It talks about just being honest with yourself and it is pretty much her life story, but giving you life lessons based on, which I think is wonderful, how transparent she could be in this book about all the things she went through in her life, but showing you how she went through to get to the life lesson, to see, praying to God, and, not always being like, why me, why did this happen to me, but instead, what do I need to be led to do or get out of this, that this did happen to me? And essentially, those kind of sound like the same thing, but when you've done some soul searching within yourself, you realize that they are not the same thing. Why me is more taking like a pity on yourself. Like, I'm too good for this. I'm better than this. How could this happen to me? Whether in your situation it be a death in your family. I had a close girlfriend that lost her mother very recently, very suddenly. So something like that. It could be a death. It could be the end of a long marriage. I was married for, it would have been 10 years in 3 weeks. So, instead of just saying, why me? I'm too good for this. I worked so hard. I did this, I did that. You more look at, what is the life lesson? What would God have me take from this? So this book has just been such a blessing to me. Such a blessing to me. It talks to you about patterns, and how you don't realize a lot of times that some of the decisions you make in life, that, like she said, if you don't take that pause, you end up at the same thing, whether it's a different situation, or if it's a relationship, whether it's with a different man, a different woman, you end up right back at that, because you have a pathology that sometimes even goes back to your parents, how you were raised, or different things like that. And I mean, it goes a lot deeper than that, but it really woke up some things in me. And not that I had gone to the darkest of place, going through what I'm going through, because he's very good to me and to our son. So thank God I don't have to go through some of the things, other horror stories that I've heard from other people. He's still very good to us. We're still like very family oriented, so it's not like a mommy attacking daddy and daddy attacking mommy. So I thank God for all of those things. But this book helped me see a lot of things in him and a lot of things in me that unfortunately had our marriage set up for failure from the very beginning. A lot of pathologies from both of our family patterns that together, us combined, it was a setup for failure. A lot of times in a marriage, you bring in your family histories together and you try to make it one. And if you're not having the strong relationship with God that you have, realizing that you're now one flesh, and you can kind of set a foundation based on some of the principles, but to get your household to work, you really have to bring a mixture of those things and come to some common ground as one flesh, that you're really set up for failure. It's not going to end well. It's going to be such a hard road until both parties see that and make that happen. So I thank God for her, and I thank God for this book, because it's just, it humbles you, about all the challenges in life, that a person can go through, and the lessons that it would have you learn. And, a lot of times God would not have us go through anything, never, I'm going to say, go through anything without there being a life lesson involved. So, I would encourage you to read this book, Peace from Broken Pieces. It's, knowing that a lot of times you can go through things, and she bases this on a lot of spiritual, a lot of scripture. So it's not just a lot of, that's another thing that I love about her. It's not just stuff she's pulling out of her head. It's based on scripture and different things like that. That there's a lesson to be learned in everything. And instead of having pity on yourself and hurting and it's okay for things to hurt and for you to have your moment, but then you pause and then you pray to God that you would find what was the lesson. That's most important, and that's what I've been telling myself. I've been, thinking about and writing some things, that I have been through within myself, within the end of my marriage, within me being a parent, that I would have myself learn from some of the struggles that I have had. And I'm telling you, that soul searching is pretty much more fulfilling than any pity party that I've thrown myself these last few months. And, all the tears that, have been shed and different things like that. And I'm starting to figure it out. I'm starting to figure out my lessons, what I would have to pull from that, what I would do differently next time. And, and learning to identify some of the faults in myself. I can be a very, very strong woman, very independent, and a lot of that is pathology. I was raised to be that way. My mom and dad were never married, had me very, very young age. So my mom was pretty much, she's a wonderful parent, but it was like you were raised like this is a dog eat dog world, you have to be strong. Don't, you have to get you. Make sure you got you. You can help other people, but don't, really have to depend on anybody for anything. Be on your own, where you could help others, but not have to rely on others. And I always thought that was a great plan. I never found fault in that, but that can be an issue in a relationship when a person doesn't feel wanted, or not wanted, shall I say. They don't feel needed, and so I'm learning a lot of that from this book, that a lot of times it's okay with a person feeling needed. A lot of times my philosophy was on that, like, who wants to be needed? If I need you, then I'm with you out of obligation. Not because, you should want to be wanted, which means I can handle my bills. I can do this and do that. But even though, with all that being said, I want you, even though, you can't do these things. But, honestly, in looking at patterns, that's not how everybody is. Some people need to feel like they're needed, and I'm still figuring that out. I'm not even really sure that I even still believe that. So I'm getting off track, but basically, I just want to tell you guys how much I enjoyed this book. If you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. If you're curious about this book, see if you can check it out in your local library. I bought it so maybe I could reference back onto it, tag to it for, a different couple of things that I would like to reread. And then I think I'm going to gift it to somebody else that I know has been struggling with some things. I think I'm going to gift it to them and write them a little note and hand the book on to them, and hopefully they can kind of keep that going and pass it on to somebody else. So that's it. I am in the midst of collecting all my pieces that are broken and not necessarily putting them back together, but having peace with it, being okay with everything that I've gone through, being okay with it. So that's it. Bye bye.